again, I'm 𝒖𝒂𝒍 𝒂𝒓, I'm co-chair of the scholarship committee, and I want to also introduce our moderator for the evening, Dr. Leah Wade.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our virtual scholarship event. As 𝒖𝒂𝒍 𝒂𝒓 has mentioned, I am Dr. Leah Wade, and I will serve as the moderator for this evening's event. There are many rewarding benefits to obtaining scholarships. First, a scholarship reduces the cost of tuition. With a lower cost, students can focus on their studies and extracurricular activities. Focusing on your education limits barriers to studying and acquiring other skills within your area of study. Another benefit is that it stands out on your resume and shows future internship sites and employers your scholarly work, aptitude, and ability to handle rigor with mastery. And a final benefit I want to highlight is a scholarship reduces your future debt, allowing more of your income for life and fun activities. The statistics for student loan debt depicts a long-term commitment to paying off this debt. Did you know that Black students take out the most student loan debt for a bachelor's degree, followed by white students? Did you also know that Black students on average owe about $44,000 with a median household net worth of $24,000? And also, 57% of Black students take out a student loan. So considering these benefits and knowing the wage gap that student loans present to borrowers, I hope each parent and future college student in attendance will create a plan to earn the most scholarship money possible. This evening, we have two panelists. The first panelist is Charlene Jones, and the second panelist is Jasmine Bell, who are ready to share their experiences with scholarships to aid your family in creating a map of success. Each panelist will speak, and we ask that you do hold your questions until the end. You can feel free to write your questions in the chat, and those questions will be answered at the appropriate time. So the first panelist is Charlene Jones, who is a Charlotte native. Charlene attended Briarwood Elementary, Cochran Middle School, and West Charlotte Senior High. After graduating from Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, she matriculated to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and studied sociology. While in undergraduate school at UNC Chapel Hill, she was a member of the March and Sound Machine at North Carolina Central University. So naturally, after graduation, Charlene attended North Carolina Central University for a Master's of Arts degree in school counseling. Charlene currently holds an associate professional mental health counseling license and is working on other college and career counseling certifications. She is now a career development coordinator at a high school in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, which blends her passion for college and career readiness and goal setting. Of importance, I would like all attendees to know that Charlene previously worked at a high school for 9 years, and for the class of 2021, they earned over $8 million in scholarships. So everyone, let us welcome Charlene Jones as she shares information about scholarships in essay writing. Charlene.
Hello. I am setting my timer so that we can make sure we are on a timely schedule, and I will share my screen, I believe. Okay. Thumbs up, you can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have a bit.ly link on this presentation so that people can feel free to go through the presentation with me. I also just put it into the chat. Bit.ly, if you type it into your browser or phone exactly how you see it. So capital CAC and then lowercase scholarship 23. You can follow along with this. There are a couple things that are highlighted in the presentation. So, you know, you can have a copy of this. So once this session has ended, you can still look at the presentation and look at some of the links. And so, of course, today we're talking about scholarships. And on the first page, this, if you click on the actual scholarship word, it brings up this document. And it's just a list of some websites that students can use to look up scholarship opportunities or things, scholarships to apply to. I have the list on here because it's just like a helper, a starting point for some people as to places that you can go to find scholarships. There is no one end all be all site for scholarships. You can do a Google search. I did a Google search for a student last week, and I just typed in the search Black male engineering scholarships. And so simple things like that can help you find scholarships that may apply to you as a student who is going to college, and that even applies to students who are currently in college. It's never too late to apply to scholarships, things that I wish I would have heard when I was in school. But you can always apply to scholarships, and it just as simple as a Google search. So know that when you click on the actual word here, scholarship, that is a link for students. Another thing that I like for students to keep in mind, students and parents for that instance, to keep in mind is that, oops, sorry, I think you're still on the same screen. Like I said, you want to start with your sites that you can go to. So the links that I have there are good, but we are in North Carolina, most people, so cfnc.org is a good site. If you are a student in CMS, Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, you have access to Naviance, which is a place where the district uploads scholarship opportunities. And so then you also can expand from the wide Google network search to looking at your school. You have to have a relationship and conversations with your school counselor and anyone in the student services for your particular school to be able to understand what is your school's process. So even if I wasn't a CMS student, say I was in Concord or I was in Gaston County, even in the 9th grade, I want to go introduce myself to my school counselor. I want to speak to that person at least once a semester. Just pop in, hey, Miss Jones, how are you? My name is, these are, you know, the things that I'm interested in. I just want to be able to touch bases with you, because school counselors have a lot of information for students, and they also have a lot of students. So they can send out, you know, generic mass emails and flyers and announcements for students, but a great way for students to also make sure that their counselor can say, hey, I know this student and I know they're interested in this major or this career field. Let me go ahead and send them this to their email or call them up to my office. So I do like to encourage students to make sure you are meeting your counselor at least once a semester. Of course, in this time of the year, a lot of students are doing registration. So that's a built-in meeting that your counselor automatically has with you. You can use that as an opportunity to just get to know your counselor, tell them what you're interested in, what your aspirations are, career and school-wise. And so that can help get you on their radar. Another thing that I like students to keep in mind is that you want to make sure you're doing things while you're in high school to help make yourself as marketable and well-rounded as possible. We'll get to some of that a little bit later into the presentation that I have. But you know, even if you're a senior now, you can still kind of see what kind of opportunities are available in your community for you to volunteer, or 9th through 12th grade, you know, is there a particular extracurricular activity or club or organization that you can be a part of, that you can grow with, not just one different club every year? Because not only do colleges like to see growth and commitment, but so do scholarship organizations. So start thinking about some of those things now, especially as we're going into second semester, look at different opportunities that you can have. I can't see the screen. It says Ms. Jones is screen sharing, but I can't see your screen. Oh, okay, let me stop and then share again. Mhm. Are we good? It's still loading. But while it's loading, okay. Okay, great. Let me make sure I'm on my right page. I don't think so. Okay, so going into different, so like I said, that was just a generic overview. There are plenty of ways to search scholarships, but tonight I wanted to mainly talk about what are some things to keep in mind while you are doing your scholarship applications. And this can also apply to college applications, but we are specifically looking at scholarship applications. Last year, the Concord Alumni chapter hosted a scholarship webinar, and there was someone who did a presentation as well, and she has a website. I linked her site here. She has some good resources for helping students to be able to manage their scholarship applications, put things in one place, kind of help you go through who are you and how can you use that information to help you fill out scholarships. If you click on the scholarship search, it will take you to her site. But I put that there because these are 4 main things to consider when you're doing scholarship searches while you're in high school. So you should know the different types of scholarships. You have institutional and private scholarships. Those are the main ones that students are applying to in their senior year. And also there are scholarships for students before 12th grade. You can apply scholarships 9th through 12th. There are even some for middle and elementary school. They're not very common, but if you are in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade, you can search scholarships for 9th graders, scholarships for 10th or 11th graders. And so those things will come up, but majority of scholarships for college students are going to be given to or awarded to seniors in your senior year. And that's a lot of times with the private scholarships. And private meaning community organizations or different foundations or different employers, things like that are private scholarships. Institutional scholarships can be found if I know that North Carolina Central is my school that I'm going to. I'm going to go to that college website. In the search bar at the top, I'm going to type in scholarship. Every single college university has a scholarship and financial aid process. Go look at what the college is offering to you that you are highly interested in attending. So I say for your top 2 schools, go do a search on their website to see what can you apply for that institution. Then you have other scholarships that are like full tuition scholarships. In North Carolina, our big full tuition scholarships are associated with UNC Charlotte, that is the Levine Scholarship. We have the Belt Scholarship for Davidson College. We have the Moorhead Kane Scholarship for UNC Chapel Hill. We have the Cheatham White Scholarship for North Carolina Central and North Carolina A&T State University. And we have Levine. And the Park Scholarship, that is for North Carolina State University. So those are the big scholarships that students are able to apply to, but you have to be understanding that those are very, very competitive scholarships. And they also have applications that come out in about September, October. So for current juniors, you want to be putting those schools on your list. If those schools are on your list and you have a very competitive GPA, I would highly recommend that you look into those scholarships now and then make sure that you can put different parts together over the summer and just research what you can about the scholarships and those institutions, if those are your number 1 or 2 schools, so that you can apply for those scholarships in the fall. Some schools still have a nomination process, but all of these have now become a self-nominated scholarship application. So say your school does say we're only going to nominate 1, you can still go to the website and nominate yourself. And then of course you have community scholarships, so like your church, the park and rec, other faith organizations, the libraries, just different things in your community. If you're a part of those things, you can apply to those scholarships. I will get to the GPA part. You also have athletic scholarships. Many people think like this is the way. there are a lot of students competing for a limited amount of athletic scholarships. So it's not saying it's not possible, but athletic scholarships can be something if you are a top athlete and you are planning to dedicate your time to athletics in college. But don't stop at only being an athletic scholarship. You want to be able to stack things. Marching band is also, or not just marching band, but you can get a scholarship for playing a band instrument in college and you don't have to be a music major. And of course, like I said, you want to build yourself up in high school. So hobbies and extracurriculars. Are you on a sports team? Are you in a club? Have you been in that club for a long time? And then of course, need-based scholarships. That means the school or the organization is going to ask a little bit about your family financial history, just to make sure that they are giving these scholarships to people who are going to be struggling a little bit financially and don't necessarily want to only take out loans for their education. Oh, I have to stop talking so much. I only have 4 minutes. Like I said, you do want to create searches. You always want to search. Just maybe take a day, like Monday and Tuesday might be my scholarship search day. Wednesday and Thursday, I can work on applications, and Friday might be a chill day. The weekend, you can kind of add to your search or be saving links. So searching is a thing that you have to do often. And when we are saying scholarship applications, we don't mean one and done. We mean at least one a week. So you have to be able to apply to many scholarships and then stack your scholarship so that you can get as much as possible and help meet your financial need and possibly even go on to what may not be covered by the school, such as books or meals, gas money to get up and down the highway from home to school, things like that. In applications, you want to make sure that you are completing applications fully and you are reading all directions. I was the chair of the scholarship committee at my church for years, and I'm a member of this committee still, excuse me, but there are years when we ask for maybe 4 things from a student and we might get 2 or 3 or something's not completed. You want to make sure that you always have your application 100% complete and have someone look over it before you submit it to the scholarship committee that you are going to be working with. So that's something that means that you can't do this by yourself as a student. It means that you want to partner with your parents, your guardian, a counselor or a teacher or a mentor. There should always be another person that's holding you accountable for the parts that you are doing as far as your college applications and your scholarship applications. And then of course, like I said, create a database. You should have some type of place, I know students love their phone, but this should really be on a computer. Somewhere, maybe in a Google Doc, you can also edit it from your phone, but also do things on your computer, save links to scholarships that you find that you know, I can fill this out. Like I said, have a parent or a guardian that you share this system or this document with so they can hold you accountable, say, okay, I know there's a scholarship application due on January 15th, what does it look like? Where have you gotten with your essays or your recommendation letters? So you need somebody else that's going to help push you to be able to do these scholarships. Someone in the chat asked me to talk about competitive GPAs. A competitive GPA is the GPA that is within the average range of some scholarship application or the average range of a scholarship application or institution. I can't say like this GPA is gonna be better than another because the lady who spoke last year, she said she had about a 2.5 or 2.8 in high school and she went to college for free for applying to scholarships. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was the most competitive, but she didn't let her GPA stop her from applying to scholarships. So you just have to put in the extra effort. But for those scholarships that are full tuition at the Park Scholarship, Levine, Moorhead Kane, Cheatham, White, Belt, those are going to require that students have above a 4.0 GPA, weighted GPA. And that's just because they're open to everyone in the state and those institutions are going to be asking for those students to be very competitive. So those ones particularly are going to be a 4.0 or higher. But that's not to say if you have a 3.8 and you are well-rounded and this is your school, I say apply. They can never tell you anything but no, but just apply. Come on, next page. Okay, so most scholarships ask for an essay. And a lot of students miss out on scholarship opportunities because they don't want to write an essay. It's just gonna have to be a part of life. I know I'm preaching to the choir, which is myself, but I wish I would have had somebody tell me in high school, write the essay, and then have someone look over it. And sometimes students feel as if they have to write it and then submit it on their own. Have someone else help you be accountable. So you can brainstorm with someone, that adult that you're accountable with, or mentor or counselor. You can talk out the topics of essays, and that can help you build your draft. And then once you have a draft that's written, you want to make sure you go through it yourself. I don't like for students to have contractions like don't or it's, right? Do not, or it is. Don't really use a lot of contractions. Like, so it, don't use a lot of apostrophe words. Make sure you're capitalizing things like your I, when you're talking about yourself, capitalize that. Capitalize your street names, your nouns. So make sure that's in your draft that you go over, as well as have another adult go over this as well. And if you don't have someone that you can say, hey, can you read over my essay? Literally read it out loud. If you can read something clearly and without any gaps out loud, then it might be okay. So that can be a last resort if you don't have anyone else to turn to help you review your essay. Then of course, review the changes that maybe need to be made that was suggested to you, but you can still make sure that your writing is in your voice. So I was editing one of my cousin's essays like a month ago, and I really had to step back to say, this is her voice. So I didn't change everything. Like, I wouldn't use that word. I wouldn't use that phrase. I left the phrases and the words she had, but I just made sure she didn't have any grammatical errors. And I made sure that the essay read evenly. So that can help for people who are parents and mentors on here. Don't change the student's voice. Just make sure it makes sense. And it's easy to read. And then of course, edit these again, make sure your essays are your best work before you submit. And I know I just gave a lot of steps, but once a week, you can fill out an application. And it's going to take many applications to get the scholarship amount that you probably want. And that's why people are always saying, oh, there are so many scholarships left on the table that students don't have to take. You just have to take the time to write the essay. And it may seem like a lot, especially at this time of year with seniors getting senioritis, but I guarantee you it will be a great return on your investment of time to fill out 100 scholarship essays versus 100 college applications. I literally say you should maybe do 5 applications because you can only go to one place. So put that time and energy into scholarship applications, not college applications. Excuse me. Then letters of recommendation. You are most likely going to have a letter of recommendation from someone, at least one for most scholarship applications. Some ask for many. Some specifically tell you who they want their recommendation from. Some just say, we want a letter of recommendation. I generally tell students to start with someone who knows you very well. And your teachers see you literally every day for half a school year, if not more. So teachers are great people to tap into and reach out to for letters of recommendation, but you want to make sure that you are giving a teacher at least 2 weeks to write your letter of recommendation, because life comes very fast for adults. And sometimes we just don't have the mental space or ability to write a quality letter of recommendation in a day or even a week. It just takes some time. So the more time that you can give the adults that you want to reach out to for recommendation letters, the better. And like I said, teachers know you, they've seen you all day, they can talk to your growth and your strengths academically and even personally in your character. There are a lot of college applications and scholarships that ask for counselor recommendations. That's why I say get to know your counselor, because if you just cold call your counselor, you've never met this person, you never had a conversation, and say, hey, can I have a letter of recommendation? They'll say, okay, but then I don't really know you. So they'll give you, this student has not been suspended. This student is a great child. They will be a great addition to your campus, or they will be a great recipient for your scholarship. That's not really personable. So make sure you get to know your counselor. And community letters of recommendation. I know since COVID, a lot of churches were virtual. A lot of volunteer opportunities have not come up as they used to, or things are starting to pick back up, but you might not have done as much from 9th to 12th grade. But it's still a good idea to reach out to someone in the community if they're asking for a community reference. It can be your neighbor. If you babysat, you're gonna have to give them time and you're gonna have to tell them exactly what you need in your letter. It can be a parent's coworker, a boss, if they've known you for years and they can speak to who you are. Just someone in the community who can speak to who you are as a student, and talk to them a little bit about what your aspirations are for a career in college, so that they can talk about that in your letter. But the main thing is you always want to give ample time to anyone who's going to be creating a letter of recommendation for you. In this presentation where it says self-brag sheet, I have put in a copy of the questionnaire that I have created for some of my students. You are able to access this document. You should have to make a copy of it and then you can edit it. So in addition to a resume, which should be only one page, not multiple, you can use something like this. If your counselor or student services department does not have a brag sheet or a questionnaire, and you can use this to literally write out what you want people to say about you in your letter of recommendation for a scholarship. So feel free to use that as well. And market yourself. So in your essays, in your application, this is not the time to be humble. This is your time to brag. This is your time to say, hey, I was head cheerleader in 9th grade, or hey, I was in the science Olympiad and I won a prize, or I was in this type of organization, or I was in this competition. List every single thing you have done since high school, or be able to talk about these things and talk about how it makes you a better person. How do these things help encourage you to go on and do better for your community? A lot of scholarship applications and panels, they want to know, what are you going to do for the community? What can you possibly do for them once you get that degree and then come into the community as a working adult? So you want to take all these things and see how can it help you shine a light on yourself to say, I am very deserving of this money and I am going to do well with it. And this is what I aspire to do. And this is what I hope to be in my community. So talk about your extracurriculars, your aspirations. Of course, talk about your academics. A lot of times people are going to see that because they see your transcript. But you can highlight different things about your academics, or you can say, hey, I wasn't really as focused in 9th grade or in 10th grade. Excuse me, I struggled a little bit with English, or math was not always my favorite subject, and I struggled a little bit with that, but I worked with the teacher to help understand some different strategies to help take to college to be successful as a college student. So even if you might not have the best academic record, you can always spin things to put a positive light on them to help show I've grown and I still am deserving of this award because of XYZ, and this is what I'm taking with me to college. And circumstances, a lot of people don't like to talk about things, but this is the time to talk about it. I'm sorry. You might have a circumstance where, you had a setback. Of course, COVID is the biggest circumstance that a lot of people talk about. How did you have an experience in education that you can take with you to help you be a better student when you're in college? Excuse me. How has your environment influenced you? How have people in your life influenced you to help you decide that you want to go to college, or to help you understand the importance of college? And then, if you have a financial situation and you can speak to that, feel free to do that. This is just your time to be as shine the light on yourself. Don't be humble. This is when you need to say, hey, this is me. This is what I'm going to be in my community. This is what I know I want to do. And of course, I know things change. I am not in the career that I thought I was going to be in high school, but I still have to sell myself as if I know right now, this is what I'm going to do. Yes, life happens in college, it might, but don't say, well, I think I might, I don't know. That doesn't give a lot of confidence. Just say, hey, this is what I want to do now. And this is what I'm interested in. This is the path that I'm going to build for myself. And you may not go on that path in college, but right now, you're going to sell it like you are for your scholarship applications. Someone said, what about esports? Esports is a thing. Feel free to talk about that. It's new to a lot of people. A lot of people are going to be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s looking at these scholarship applications. You might have to explain what esports means. Are there specific mistakes that you see students making when submitting applications? So someone's asking, like, what are some of the specific mistakes students are making when submitting applications? That's the grammar. They have lowercase I. They don't have any punctuation at all. They're using the contractions. You know, it's going to be the way that I pay for college. It is going to help me pay for college. Don't really use social media language or text language in your writing. That's something that students have to learn how to turn off when it comes to academic writing. And like I was telling a student last week, he was saying, oh, I'm just wait for my mom so they can write my essay. No, you got to write this on your own. You have to show that you understand what it means to be able to make a draft of something and then have someone edit that. And then, you know, this is your work still. Yes, you can have support. Yes, you can have mentors and people look over things and guide you, but this is still your work. So that's the main mistake when students are submitting applications is that their grammar is terrible in their writing. Nobody reread it for them, and you could tell nobody reread the application. And then of course, you know, if you're going to have to mail something, which means you're typing it and then printing it out, put it on clean paper, make sure it's not crooked, wrinkled, and make sure things are turned in on time. Try to get, if something's due on the 15th, tell yourself it's due on the 13th or the 14th so you can have it in before the actual deadline. But right now, that's what I have for you, and you can feel free to continue asking questions and I can try to answer them in the chat.
Thank you so much, Charlene Jones. As you can tell, she has a wealth of information and resources, and we appreciate you sharing those with us. But now it is time for the student voice. Our second panelist is Jasmine Bell, the daughter of Sharita and Norman Bell. Jasmine is from Charlotte, North Carolina, and graduated from Cato Middle College High School. From an early age, Jasmine participated in unique opportunities. She was on Master Chef Junior and Top Chef Junior. Jasmine did not stop there. She was also on Good Morning America, The Today Show, and The Chew. These activities and her commitment to excellence led Jasmine to be awarded over $500,000 in scholarships from schools and outside resources. And of that amount, she has 130,000 plus in usable scholarships. Last year, Jasmine was awarded the February 1 scholarship at North Carolina A&T State University. She is a Coca-Cola Scholar, National Honor Society Scholar, and a State Employees Credit Union People Helping People Scholar. So let's welcome Jasmine, who will share her experiences obtaining scholarships, money, and other deserving awards from various schools and organizations. And also, Jasmine is a student at North Carolina A&T State University who is studying journalism with a concentration in public relations and minoring in English and entrepreneurship. But I have to say, I have known Jasmine since birth because she is my line sister's daughter. I am proud of her accomplishments and all of her work, and I'm glad that she is here this evening to share that with us. Now I present to you, Jasmine Bell.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here tonight, and I am so happy to be able to speak to you all about scholarships and just the overall process. I was just doing this around the same time last year and a little bit earlier. So it's been not too long that I've been far removed from this. So it can be a lot at times, but just remember that there's always an end goal, and that is to get as much scholarships as possible and just be able to, you know, try to not have like student debt. So for me, it was always trying to look at like what activities have I done and how to utilize my resume when it comes to applying for these scholarships. So one of the things that I can say is that, just like Ms. Jones said, it is time to start like bragging. It's most definitely wanting to be able to take everything on your resume and be able to look at it and be like, okay, this is some of the things that I've done, and now how can I use that to my advantage when it comes to your essays, when it comes to interviews, and just the overall application process. But just at the very start of it, it is about organization and making sure that you are organized from the start. So whatever like email that you're using, you want to make sure that you're something you check regularly, because there are schools are going to send you information once you start applying to them, and there are also scholarships themselves. And I know for like Coca-Cola scholarship, like that was one of the scholarships that I had to like add their email name to my list in my email, because one of them ended up going to my spam, and that let me know that I was like a finalist for the applicate for the scholarship. And at first I didn't see that, and I saw it like 2 days later because I was just going through my spam. So it's one of those things where you want to just be wary of like the information that's coming to you, and making sure that you are putting it all in one place to organize it. So having that email that you check regularly, also making sure you check your spam, because there were a lot of things that came to my spam that was just really surprising. But I'm very like try to be very organized about things, and it just helped the whole process of being like, okay, I'm going to knock out these scholarships because these are coming up. And so I have a scholarship organizer that I'm going to put in the chat, because it was just able to break down like, this is the amount of the scholarship, this is where the scholarship is from. You can put your login information as well, just in case like it varies across different websites, because some require different passwords or different emails. So being able to just say, this is where all my information is, and being able to go and click through that. And then also when it comes to organizing, especially with your essays, because there are times where your essays are going to be able to be used multiple times. There might be things where you have to might change it around just to be specific about what exactly that organization is. My mom just put the organizer in the chat, so you can make a copy of that and then use it for yourself. But just being able to, sorry, I've lost my point for a second there. What was it? I was talking about, I'm sorry, what was it? Oh, organizing. So making sure that you just are on top of all the deadlines, and it might be something where you do have to put into your phone, into like your Google Calendar or like the Apple Calendar on your phone, being like, okay, this scholarship is due then, then, and now I need to make sure I have a couple days before to be able to send it in, because there are, like I know this year for the Coca-Cola scholarship, there was so many applications that they had to the website stopped working, so people were sending it in on the last day, and it just wasn't working for them. So a lot of people weren't able to get it in at first, and they did extend the deadline because that happened, but there are some scholarships that don't do that. So just making sure you're on top of those dates, and regularly being able to look at it, be like, okay, this is when it's happening, and now I know that I can submit this a few days earlier. And so for me, it's just like Ms. Jones was saying earlier, sometimes it is not necessarily about your GPA. It's more about what are you doing in your community? What are you doing at school? And that GPA can factor into it as well. But when you start getting into like how I was for like the February 1 scholarship, and then we have the Cheatham White and the Dowdy at A&T, you're starting to look at, okay, what else is the student involved in? Because yes, you can make good grades, but what else is there to you? So it's about, for me, I went to 2 different high schools. I went to a regular high school, then a middle college where I took like college level courses. So with that, in my first high school, I was in clubs such as like FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America, DECA, and then like FCCLA. And being able to look at those, you have those like kind of big organizations that a lot of people know about, and you want to be able to get into those and kind of like try to figure out maybe your freshman, sophomore year, what you like really enjoy, so then you can have a longevity in those, so that ultimately you can get leadership positions, because it is important to be in several different types of clubs, but also making sure you have a leadership position within those, or within at least one of them. And it could be one of those things to be able to show growth, where sophomore year you were a secretary, and now senior year you are the president. Just being able to show that you wanted to continuously like level yourself up and continue to grow. Just being able to show that to a scholarship committee, because it's just in scholarships in college are kind of the same thing. They just want to be able to see like who you are as a student, your growth, and how you're going to be kind of when you come to school. So you want to be able to do like that type of thing. And then when I moved to my second high school, we had different types of clubs. So I was the co-president of the Multicultural Club, the president of the National Honor Society. I also I got chosen to be on Charlotte Mecklenburg School's Title IX task force. So just being able to look out for opportunities, that was something that came to me through my principal. So being able to build relationships with some of the administration within your school so that they're able to be like, this student is a student leader and I want to pick them out to help them get into other organizations that are outside of school, because it is one of those things where you want to be involved in school, but you also want to be involved in your community. And so when you're able to say, okay, in school, we did like these community services with our clubs, but then also when I go outside of school, I'm able to do things in my community as well. For me, I was able to do a lot of community service through my nonprofit called Her Voice Matters. So I did a lot of women's toiletry drives, and then just speaking to other people about those drives and being able to use my nonprofit to do that, but also, and then being in outside organizations. And like I did something like in Charlotte, there is the junior ambassadors for Blumenthal Performing Arts. So just being able to find different activities that really interest you, and being able to use that. And then when you're starting to go look for these scholarships, being able to specify, okay, this is something that I can show that I've had a lot of interest in throughout my high school career or before, and being able to write about that and then ultimately maybe interview about that. And then also with your major, being able to specify, this is like my major is journalism. So I can look up journalism major scholarships, and that type of thing, so that you're able to see just different opportunities within your own field. And then with being able to search those type of things, you might be able to find scholarships that you can apply for in college, because scholarships don't stop once you get into college. You can still be applying all the way up until like you graduate, so that you can still be able to make money. And ultimately, if you are getting a full ride somewhere, you might be able to get refund money to either use towards grad school or beyond. And one of those things that I would say that you could also look for are, scholarships that can defer your money. Because for me, with my full ride, sometimes like some schools aren't gonna like give you a lot of refund money, like the exact amount of money you have in those outside scholarships, if you get it from your school. So with the Coca-Cola scholarship, I'm able to defer that to grad school, or be able to use it for a summer travel abroad experience, and just being able to have those different resources for later on if I wanted to go to grad school or even get like a doctorate degree. It's able to be used later on. So just looking at, there's not a lot of them that are out there, but there are some, and just being able to see that, oh, like I can get into that is very important. And so another thing about when it comes like to your essays, again, making sure you're being able to brag. And it's like, you don't have to put everything into one essay, but you might want to choose a certain type of honor that you have, or a certain type of award or club that you're in, that you can really elaborate on and specify certain points to which you've showed leadership and growth. It's just all about being able to show that you are a well-rounded student. So you want to pick something that can be like, if it's a 500 word essay, you want to be able to have a full 500 words. And also when it comes to essays, make sure you try to get as close to the maximum as possible, so that like you're showing that you are able to elaborate on it, you have a lot to say about it. And that's just super important. And I know with a lot of the interviews I did specifically for A&T, they're basically asking you questions to basically brag about yourself, like, what was your biggest accomplishment and what have you done? And just being able to have those in the front of your mind. So being able to look at your resume and probably pinpoint 5 different things on there that you could fully elaborate on, whether that be in an essay or in an interview. Those are just super important, like key factors. And the more you start talking about it, the more it's like easier to flow out. Because I know that sometimes I can be a little bit of a rambler when it comes to like interviews or just talking in a general sense. So you can always do like mock interviews, and just like try to talk to someone just to kind of get the energy flowing of like how you might be able to be in a real interview. And I know some are over Zoom, some are in person. So just trying to do both so that you can see like kind of that feel for it. And then also making sure that you have someone, like I always would write my essays and I would have my mom look over it so I can get another pair of eyes on it, just to make sure everything sounds all right and look okay, but also using something as simple as Grammarly. to fully be able to check that. And another one of the things that I want to talk about was honors and awards. So there's a lot of things that you can like talk about throughout just the whole process. And something as simple as like an honor, like for me, I was on, because I went to a community college, my second 2 years, I was on the president's list, which is basically if you got like a 4.0 GPA through the college. So being able to talk about that and say that that's like an accomplishment for you, because that's something that you have, like, it shows that you've worked hard. And then with awards, one of the things that I've gotten is when I was doing culinary at my first high school, I got my ServSafe certification. So that was something that when you can like look at it and be like, that's something that I had to, it's a test you have to take. So any type of certifications, like if you're like Adobe or like Microsoft Suites certified, those are very interesting things you can also put on your resume and just be able to talk about. And just making sure you like maximize as many things that you can talk about, but still be able to like have a full explanation of it, if that makes sense. So those are just some of the things that I would just make sure that you're trying to talk about in your scholarships. And then, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. And then making sure that like you show that you have that's that well-rounded thing. Show that you were able to say, I did this in school, but I also did this out of school, and your just overall leadership. And that was just kind of some of those things that I feel like everyone should kind of know. And if you have any questions for me, I am more than happy to answer them for you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine Bell. Can't you guys see just how phenomenal she is as a young adult? And to say that I'm proud of her is an understatement. And I believe her mother is on the line somewhere. So I do want to let my line sister Sharita and her husband know that we are proud of the work that they've done to support her and to get her to where she is now. So as I stated earlier,
there's a couple questions in the chat if I could answer them real quick. If you don't mind.
That's what I was going to do next. So answer any questions in the chat, Jasmine and Charlene, and then people, now is the time for you to put the questions there.
Recommend using the same essay for multiple scholarships. I do, because I wouldn't say it's something that's lazy at all. It's just being able to like maximize your time, because for me, like the scholarship process started for me in September and didn't end until, actually, I really don't know where to end. It felt like it went all the way to the end of my senior year. So for being able to do that, it was one of those things where it's like, you can just make sure you're looking at an essay. And if this has a very similar style of question, making sure you just tweak those little bit of parts that says, okay, hey, like this is what we want different in our essay for this other organization. But making sure you like really proofread them, because if you submit something to Chapel Hill that was meant for A&T, it's like, you know that you're talking about like the two different programs of journalism and their schools. So just really proofreading those when you're tweaking them, because that's just important that you don't submit them differently. Because I know like in Google Docs, it can say copy of. So making sure you change like the name immediately, so you know this was specified for that. And I believe that is perfectly okay to do it. I did that for multiple scholarships and I received those scholarships in the end. So I believe that's like a really good thing to do, just so that you're not having to waste time. And then how often did I apply and what was the process like? At first, I just kind of saw scholarships as they came in. I had my counselor sending scholarships. And then we also had like Naviance and like CF&C. So being able to look through those and just see what's coming in. And then also just talking to friends. I actually like the Coca-Cola scholarship was not on my list until I was talking to one of my friends about it. And she was like, oh yeah, I'm applying to this scholarship. And like, I know me and my friends are just very open about it, because it's just, everyone's going through it at that time, and just being open and be like, yeah, this is kind of what I'm applying to. And we were just talking about that. And that's how the opportunity came about. So just like having those open conversations, but I applied to at least a couple of weeks at first. Like at first it was very much, I just was looking at the scholarships. First I got in, every scholarship was like for like A&T. I applied to the Robertson, which is the Chapel Hill 4-ride scholarship, Chapel Hill and Duke. And then I applied to A&T AT's full rides. With their full rides, you're applying into their portal system, and then they kind of specify and break you up for where you might be best fit for the 3 different full rides that they have. So after like looking at those bigger scholarships that go through the schools, that was kind of where I started out first, making sure I had all that information came in. And then a lot of the big scholarships like a Coca-Cola, Burger King, they kind of are also start their process out very early on. And then because it's such a big scholarship, they go semifinalist, finalist, and you get to an interview round. So just getting those kind of big things out the way. And then towards the end, when I got like into the second semester, I was starting to look at more things like churches, civic groups, like the Charlotte Post in Charlotte. That's one of the things. And then club organizations like I said earlier, like HOSA, DECA, FCCLA. Also looking into your parents' jobs. So just being able to like look at all that and see like, okay, my parents might work for, I think my dad works for Wells Fargo. So I applied to that Kappa scholarship. And then looking at fraternities and sororities and just different banks and just like all those type of things and just local scholarships I started looking at later, just to be able to do that. And so you start looking at kind of like the bigger ones at first. And there are like, you can do the smaller ones as well. But just looking at the bigger ones first, because I know those applications come in at the very beginning, and then kind of that second semester at the very beginning, starting to look at this, like the smaller, more local ones. And then when it got around second semester, I was probably still applying a couple of weeks just to try to see. But yeah, so that's one of those things.
So someone's saying, what are some words of encouragement you can give to a senior? Just as an adult who works with a lot of students, you just have to pull them, keep dragging them, like give them and say, hey, I know it's a rough day. What can I help you with today? What can I work on with you? And, you know, talk through some of those applications with them. They might not want to do anything, but my mother, she sat with me many long nights in high school, and it's going to take a bit of parental guidance or, you know, guardian if you have a child with you that's not necessarily a child. And even like right now, I have cousins that I'm working with, and I'm texting them on a weekly basis. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? And I'm looking at their documents and sending notes to them. And if they haven't looked at that note within about 3 or 4 days, I send them a text message. So it's going to take a lot of encouragement. But I would ask Jasmine, as a senior, what did you feel like you needed to help you continue going through the process?
I think for me, just knowing that there is a end goal in mind. Knowing that for me, when I was younger, I always told myself I wanted to go to school to get a full ride, or at least have all these outside scholarships to be able to pay for me to go to school for free. So just knowing that you have an end goal in mind and that there's a reason that you're doing it. And also being able to just be like, okay, I know that like maybe 4 out of the 5 days of like the school week, I'm going to be applying a scholarship. And then like a Friday, that's something where you're going to a basketball game, you're going to hang out with friends, and you just kind of have that break. And then over the weekend, you are prepared to start transitioning back into that. So it's just like being able to allow yourself breaks, but also remembering that you are doing work for yourself, and it's going to help you out in the long run, when you're just kind of keeping that in mind that you have an end goal.
Someone's asking about the importance of SAT and ACT scores. So North Carolina for this year, and of course last year, were test optional for college applications. There are, however, some scholarship applications that do require an SAT score. And if you are going to submit an SAT score for those scholarships, I would still look up the school's profile to see if they list what the average incoming freshman's score was. And even if those scores are old because of the test optional years that we've had, at least in North Carolina, you can still see, you know, what your average score looks like compared to that college, or even compare your average score to your high school score. But then of course you just want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward when it comes to your scores. But like I said, you don't necessarily have to submit them for your application, but there are some schools and scholarship applications that require them.
Yeah, and I know for like A&T, when we were applying, there were people that didn't submit at all and still got a full ride, and there were people who did. So it's one of those things where it's like, if it is optional and it's like you don't have the best score, but you might have a bunch of other accolades, it's not something to be so worrisome of, because I know friends who didn't do, like, they're just not that type of test taker. So they didn't do so well on the SAT or ACT, but they excel in a lot of other areas. So they were completely fine.
Yes. So optional does not mean you have to, they're trying, that's the one time they're not really trying to trick you, especially with applications. It really is optional. And if you can highlight great things other places, you can. But when it comes to optional essays, you need to write those. Would these same rules apply to people seeking interest in graduate school? Are there additional or different tips for people seeking interest in graduate school? I'm gonna ask Dr. Wade to talk about it a little bit, but it is similar. But then you can also definitely reach out to the school that you're looking to apply to for grad school to help with those type of scholarships, because a lot of that funding might come from the institution itself.
So I do want to answer this question. Yes, the recording from today's session will be made available to the public. It will be on the chapter's YouTube page.
Another thing I just wanted to say was that when it comes to my parents were very supportive of me when it came to my application. So just being able to help me stay organized. So for parents, just be able to be there to support your kids, because they can't do it alone. And that's just very important to the overall process, just feeling that support and having that there as just like a little lean on every now and again, just to know that they're there and supportive. So that's just something that really helped me out.
And even as a parent, if you feel like you don't really know what's going on, just, offer the support. Say, hey, do you have any questions? Are you confused? And if your child does have a question, or the student you're working with does have a question that you can't necessarily answer, say, okay, well, who can we reach out to answer this question? Reach out to their school counselor, help them reach out to that person. And, that helps them learn how to kind of problem solve on their own, because these are skills they're going to need when they get to college and they're independent on their own. But just as a parent, even if you are confused, just stay involved with the process so that you can still be a lot of support even if you don't know everything. So just don't feel overwhelmed either.
So it looks like you have answered all of the questions in the chat, but I wanted to make sure that there are no additional questions for either of our panelists, Charlene Jones or Jasmine Bell. If there are no other questions, I do want to thank you guys so much. I mean, Jasmine and Charlene, you both did a phenomenal job. And I am sure that this information will help parents in creating a plan for their child or family member for success. But guess what? We're talking about scholarships. The Concord Alumni Chapter sponsors 2 scholarships, which are the Concord Academic Excellence Scholarship and the Peggy Fleming Needs-Based Scholarship. Be on the lookout for the release of the applications within the next week. Should you have any questions, you may email the Scholarship Committee at scholarship@concordalumnidst.org. And my final reminder before I let President Heron-Williams come back would be on January the 30th, guess what? Our chapter is also sponsoring a free application for federal student aid FAFSA workshop. So please join us, because this workshop will include information on how to get additional money for school. So thank you for listening to our panelists today and my reminders. And now I'm going to hand it over to the president of the Concord Alumni Chapter, Bridget Herring-Williams. President Herring-Williams.
Good evening again. Good evening. On behalf of the Concord Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, I want to just say thank you to our scholarship committee for hosting this workshop this evening. To our invited guest, Jasmine Bell, my Aggie sister, and to Charlene Jones for just being with us and bringing your expertise. To you, my soror, Dr. Wade, thank you for moderating this session for us this evening. And thank you, our audience. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your engaging questions. Thank you for being so attentive in your presence this evening. This was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for parents, guardians, and students, and just the information that was received this evening, because it's never too early to prepare for college. I hope that you all took plenty of notes because you received a wealth of information. Again, thank you so very much for joining us. Thank you for your attention and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you.